Good evening. Welcome to a meeting of the Cabinet of Gloucester City Council, the 11th of February 2026. This meeting is being live streamed on the Council's YouTube channel. The recordings of this meeting will remain online for 4 years, and if you are present in the chamber, you are consenting to appearing in the recording and broadcast, which may be used for training purposes. First item on the agenda is apologies. We've got all the cabinet here. I think all the officers that we need to be here. So, declarations of interest. Has anybody got any of those? No. Next one is the minutes of the meeting on the 14th of January. Are we happy with those? Yeah. Shall I sign them? Next item on the agenda is public question time. Our questioner is not here. Often he might send us a note to say he's late, but he hasn't done that. So we'll move on to item 5, which is petitions and deputations. And we haven't got any petitions and deputations. So we'll move on from that one to leader cabinet member question time. This is a maximum 30 minutes. And when this was set, it was all agreed when it gets to 30 minutes, that's the end. There's no arguing about it. So I'm going to go to the questions. Call up the first person. Councillor Patel first. Yeah. Right. I'm there. So we've got Councillor Patel first of all. So if you like to ask your first question.
Thank you very much, Leader. The question 1, I haven't got a supplementary on that one. And question 2, I do, thank you. The figure we've been quoted for security since March of 2025 is almost £3,100. We've had 61 meetings at the council since March of 2025. If you work that out, £3,100 by 61 meetings, then that would work out the security costs being £50.75 a meeting. Now, some meetings last 5 hours, some meetings would last 1 hour. So it would work out to be this would work out £25.37 per security guard per meeting. Is that right? Can you please ask, would you be able to look at those figures again and double check, because something doesn't seem right to me? Thank you.
Those are the figures I've been given by finance. We can have a look at them again and double check. There's no harm in doing that. But it does seem pretty good value for money. You might have miscalculated the number of meetings of which security was in attendance. But anyway, we'll look at that. But that's the figure we've got for a 12-month period, or nearly a 12-month period. We've got another month to go, so it's about 11 months that figure's for. Okay, we'll go on to the next question.
Yeah, thank you very much. The next question is to the council lottery. Thanks for the answers and the figures provided. I recall that at a recent ONS meeting, the corporate director of the council said that the lottery was raising somewhere in the region of £30,000 to £50,000 per annum consistently. So the figures here provided show that in the previous 2 years, it was £9,800, £9,600, and in this current year, just under £8,000. So that is some way off the £30,000 to £50,000 figure quoted by the corporate director. Be interested to know which is the correct figure. And also, and then I question, are the council's figures themselves a lottery? Because, and this would explain why the council is in a huge deficit of £15.5 million and on the verge of bankruptcy. And what we're looking to do here is promote gambling addiction further in the city, which will lead to more problems with gambling addictions. Has this council lost all its moral conscience, this Liberal Democrat-run council
Well, I
that
think-
was looking to put the heart back into Gloucester? Thank you.
I think you might find that the Gloucester Lottery was inspired and introduced by the Conservative Party. Rebecca.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Yeah, thank you, Sarge. So I've actually taken on board what you were saying about the whole gambling thing, and that is why tonight I have pulled that paper, because I want to make sure. Thank you, Sarge. So, because I want to make sure where we're getting those funds from, and I do know that there is another pot of money that we have in the grant, which we can look at doing, but I want to make sure we get it right. And therefore, I don't take any umbrage to the Gloucester Lottery, because I do think they do amazing work. And there's about 70 organisations. I've had a list through of what it is. But going forward, I'm not sure if that was the right money to use for that fund. So that's why tonight I have pulled that report. Thank you.
Can we just come in with a bit more information on that for you from the Managing Director?
Just to clarify the numbers that were quoted by the corporate director, the Gloucester Lottery does raise about 30 to 50 grand each year, but the majority of that money goes to specific organisations. This was the money that goes to the central pot that the council retains and then distributes according to whichever mechanism it wishes to distribute. But the lottery does generate more money than this each year. But when you look at the website, people can, when they pay to play, they can choose to support a particular organisation or just to contribute towards the general charitable causes. So that's why there's a different figure that was quoted the other evening to the one that's in your specific question and answer this evening. Thank you, Chair.
Anyway, I can confirm that the paper's been pulled at agenda item 10, so we won't be discussing that tonight. 4. Question 4. Oh. Question 5.
Yeah, thank you very much for the answer and for the figures provided. I'm absolutely astonished that, bearing in mind we are in this position where we're £15.5 million in debt and had to go to a begging bowl to the government. We have so much debt that we haven't been, I don't think we've been actively chasing up. I recall Councillor Chambers, Alistair Chambers, mentioned at the last budget meeting that the indoor businesses in the indoor market zone owed money to the tune of £350,000, and he was literally laughed at, and the budget went through anyway. Clearly, he knew more than some people in the council, perhaps, including the leadership, or was information being hidden? I don't know which one it is. And it sounds like, once again, we've been fudging the figures, and the figures are like a lottery. With all that money owed, what reassurances can you give that we are going to get or recoup all this money as soon as possible? Because one stall in the indoor market owes the council over £50,000 in unpaid rent. There's something fishy going on here.
Yeah, very clever. A good pun. But let's put it the way that tenant you mentioned has moved out because we dealt with it. But Declan, do you want to answer?
Oh, yeah. Thank you, sir. Well, the first thing you were mentioned about the 340,000, you can see we've considerably reduced that. One of the issues that we've had with the indoor market is that it's a hangover from previous administration, that they were all on different agreements and licenses, and it was a total mess. So what we've been doing over the last year is we've been professionalising it, and everybody now is on identical agreements, which means that it makes it easier for us to enforce it and collect it. You could have a situation in the past whereby if somebody owes money, yes, but I have this certain agreement with a certain councillor and my agreement's this, and it was hard to keep track because everyone's agreements were also different. We've standardised it all and we've improved how we collect them, and you'll see that the 48,000 there, people they're on payment plans. I would argue they're not strictly overdue anymore because we've come up with a payment plan and they're keeping to them. So that's so that has improved, and we will improve them further. Regards to the rent on our commercial portfolio, a lot of that debt there could be just a few days overdue. In many ways, if you want to get a proper idea of how serious the debt situation is or the overdue situation is, you really need to start aging that debt. But certainly most of that would be, I'm not entirely sure of the split myself, but if it's all short term, and I would expect a lot of this to be cleared by the end of the month, it's not such a big issue. Yes, 200,000 parking permits, event license and rent from community portfolios. We are actively chasing all of this up because it's something that we can't afford to do. And you have situations in the past, I think, where councils were a bit softer, especially in community groups, and a bit more lenient because our ethos is different from hard-nosed commercial organisations. But unfortunately, with the circumstances that we're in, we are tightening up and we are actively chasing all of that debt.
Okay, thank you. Next councillor I've got is Alistair Chambers.
Thank you, Chair. Question to Cabinet Member for Finances. Question 6 asks various questions regarding emerging risks that will lead to further service reductions or exceptional finance control. The response I've been given is turn to the report, Q2 report, which I've got a copy here if you're missing it. I've looked at it and I can't see any emerging risks apart from the access to that funding. So what are the emerging risks? Because you haven't answered the question.
Well, our emerging risks are the normal ones that you have. So that's inflation, commercial income, etc., vacant properties, the sort of normal things, problems in the car parks, etc. I have to say that the Q3 financial monitor I'm going to be reviewing that. I'm planning to review that tomorrow, and I think it'll be released. It's coming up before the next Overview and Scrutiny Committee. So I'm guessing that will be sent out on Friday. So you'll have a lot of the detail in that report. So I would suggest if you could hold fire and have a look at it, and then I'll be at Overview and Scrutiny to answer more questions in detail. One thing I can say is that the report will be done we've tightened up all our budgeting procedures and financial reporting procedures behind the lines. So I would hope that a lot of the data you will see in this report will be a lot more robust than what we've been used to in the past. But as I say, that will be released in a few days' time.
Next question. I am moving on to make sure you will get it in the 30 minutes.
How are you saving the 2.5 million, and what assets are classed as surplus assets in the asset disposal strategy?
Which one are you going to? That's question. Sorry, I'm number 7 you're talking about, and that's the.
Yeah, 7.
You will get all this information via the recovery board, but you will see that from the papers that have already gone to council. We will be, the plan is effectively to recover our financial situation via increasing our commercial income, asset disposal and savings, none of which are going to be particularly easy or very popular, but unfortunately we have to do that. Sort of the question itself talks about depletion of reserves. How long are we going to have to rely on reserves? I think you got that somewhere. Yeah. I mean, the sad fact is that we haven't really had any reserves for the last few years, which we're only discovering now. So that's no longer an option. But as I said, our financial strategy itself, you will have already seen gone before council. It's those 3 strands really: savings, commercial income, and asset disposal.
Okay, Alistair. Next question. That's number 8, isn't it?
Question number 8. Will you provide members a copy of this full review you claim has been completed?
That's going to be part of the budget report.
Sorry, the question was, will you be providing the full report of how it's been completed? Not just in the budget report, it'd just be a paragraph on the full report of how it's been completed. Thank you.
All the fees and charges will be in the budget papers.
Just coming back to that, fees and charges are in there, but that's not what this is asking. This is asking for how you conducted the review against other councils. If you read your answer, you said you've conducted a full review looking at other authorities and what they charge. That's not in the fees and charges documentation. I went through every page of it. So will you be providing the full review?
That's all a lot of background. If we would include what every single other council in the area charged for every single item, it would be a very big report. If you've got specific questions, I'm sure we can dig out the information that we have. So, I mean, what we have, the reality is we haven't reviewed our fees and charges for years. And when we look at what other councils are charging, we're charging much less. So, and unfortunately, it's not a situation that we can afford to be in anymore. And regrettably, we have to sort of bring our charges more or less in line with what other councils are charging.
Okay. Question number 9.
So I'll take that as you will supply the documentation.
Number 9.
A member of the finance, this quoting the cabinet member for finances. A member of the finance team staff did approach Alison with their concerns about how we were dealing with commercial property and assets. And that's why they started digging. So technically that's a whistleblower. One of the members of staff came forward and reported this to Alison. And I think that's where our key problems are. And if I'm honest, but there is a huge systematic problem here that's been there for a long time. I hope you've, the question is I hope you've dealt with the whistleblower following council whistleblowing policy terms and conditions.
There's to me, question 9, it says, the leader, there has been no official or event of a whistleblower providing information under the whistleblowing policy since this administration took office related to finance or the finance team. That's the situation. What there might have been is discussions between officers in a normal professional way to look at the systems that are in place and look at ways of improving the financial system that's in place. You will get to see the proposal from the LGA, the report into how we're going to strengthen the finance team for the March council meeting. I'm expecting to see the full report ready fairly soon for me to sign off, but that will be ready for discussion. And then you'll see what's been done. And in actual fact, the most impressive investigation has been carried out by the Local Government Association. Can we move on to the next item?
So Declan did say there was a whistleblower. You didn't address that.
First of all,
And it's not the,
It's part of the finances. Avoiding the question again. Thank you.
no, let's get on.
yeah, just on that last question, I just need to correct something that Councillor Chambers said. He said that we discovered that we had all these problems when a member of staff came forward and raised the concerns. That's not true. We discovered that we had this issue when we closed down the 23-24 accounts.
Yeah, let's.
So are you saying you're recording private meetings? Yes. Yeah, so you do that. No, but it just means that.
To Stephanie Chambers. Number 11.
I asked for the track changes documents, if that could be provided. And I noticed the current whistleblowing policy only covers employees, it states in there. However, the website does state that whistleblowing protections do go further than that. Is there a policy in place to cover councillors, members of the public, subcontractors, anybody that works with this council?
Thank you, Chair. I can confirm that anyone can contact the Arrow whistleblowing hotline, regardless of their status or position.
Okay, the question was, is there a policy?
The policy is anybody can contact it, and the whistleblowing policy has not changed. So no material changes. All that's been done is a change in the reference to the number, the contact details of what people need to do. Policy hasn't changed. Can we move on to number 12, please?
Yes, the response says that comments are deleted or users blocked to protect staff and the public to prevent defamation and discrimination. Given the council is a public authority and Article 10 protects freedom of expression, subject to only lawful, necessary and proportionate restrictions, will you state what roles are authorised to delete comments and block users, what written criteria they apply to ensure decisions are lawful, necessary and proportionate, and whether there is a moderation log and a review log for people who believe they've been unfairly moderated? And please can you provide the full log of what has been deleted and individuals blocked with reasons of why redacting any name with redacting any names or specific words that identify them?
There's only a few people that have been blocked, and that's because of offensive posts that they put on our Facebook page. And that's perfectly legitimate for us to remove that, or where they made offensive remarks or intimidation remarks towards staff or councillors. That's not being allowed. If you look at any newspaper, these sort of posts, which might in the old days have been a letter to the editor, would just get refused. They just wouldn't be published. But we're not going to allow those on our Facebook page. If people want to put out those provocative things, they can do it on their own Facebook profile. We're not stopping them doing that, but they're not going to do it on the City Council Facebook page. And it's been proven to be very successful. We're over 12,000 followers now, and a lot of interactions. One of the biggest interactions only in recent few days is to do with the pony that was left at Westgate Island, Westgate Park. So it's working well, and that's an editorial policy. And if people put out offensive stuff on the Facebook page, they will be taken down. And if they repeat that, they will be blocked.
Excuse me, Chair, you didn't answer the question at all. No, my question was...
I answered your question. I answered your question.
Yes or no, will you provide redacted copies, yes or no?
I answered your question. Move on to item 13. Move on to item 13, please. I answered your question.
Oh, I'm glad to hear the community grads, but I just wanted to make you aware whilst you're doing that review of it, because my main concern was that that policy as it stood could block at least a third of Christian organisations from applying for it under the rules of it being a lottery, and many other faith organisations. So I think we were excluding them all unfairly.
Yeah, thanks for that, Stephanie. I think that was another reason I just felt that it wasn't the right pot of money to be using for this, what I had visions of. So it just needs a bit further more tweaking. I want to get it right before I bring it to Cabinet, and therefore at the moment it's not in that stage. So it will come back, but I can't tell you when. Thanks.
Number 14, bear in mind I've now got 9 minutes left on my stopwatch.
Well, it would be helpful if the original questions were answered the first time
It
around.
would be helpful if you didn't argue about the answers you got, and just move on to the next question, please.
Would it be helpful if they were correct? So I would really like to know what the charge is. The question asked what the charge was going to be, and the analysis and the work done to make this assessment. And it says that there'll be no criteria, no exceptions to a charge. So if people's boxes are broken by usage from the staff that are collecting them, or by other residents, or stolen, or animals in the night, this is going to be a charge down to the residents to cover over and over again if that happens to them.
Sebastian.
Thank you for the question. Yeah, if obviously if Yubico staff damage the box, then we would look into that. They have been told that they need to be careful with them and not throw them, and we do take that very seriously. We'll we will look to take disciplinary action if that does happen. But ultimately, it will be up to the residents to make a claim, and we will investigate that. The current situation is that we are spending more than £250,000 a year on delivering free recycling boxes, food waste caddies, replacement bins, and that's unfortunately financially unsustainable. It has to have been looked at, and officers in my team have looked at that, and we are proposing these charges to counter that and deal with this problem.
Item 15, no? Okay. Andrew?
Thank you, and thank you for the answer to the question, which was I wanted an update on the sale of the airport. You've said in your reply, we are now in a position to move forward to complete the sale, and we anticipate bringing the process to a conclusion shortly. I have to say that answer isn't convincing. We have heard this before several times. And deadline upon deadline keeps passing. Can you give us a firm date, please? And can you explain what happens next if the sale falls through, bearing in mind that receipts from the sale of Gloucestershire Airport will go some way towards paying off the government EFS funding, assuming, of course, we get that funding.
Bear in mind that the sale of the, proposed sale of the airport was something determined, frankly, almost before the administration took office. I took 6 months to review it and decide on whether we should go ahead, and council decided to put it up for the sale, and a number of tenders came in. Officers of Gloucester City Council, Cheltenham Borough Council and our agents working really hard to complete the sale, working very closely, collaboratively with Horizon, who was to purchase the airport as a going concern. I can't give you a date of completion. That's part of the problem. Can't give you a date of completion until the sale has been done and the money is in the bank and being transferred. Like all these things, every sort of deal can fall at the last minute. We'll just have to see, and we'll all have to be patient. And it's probably best to be patient rather than stir things up in the local media about whether it will go to sell or not. Let's just assume that officers of this council, officers of Cheltenham Borough Council, and our agents and our legal team are working as hard as they can to complete the sale. I've got you now, Andrew, and you've got 4 minutes.
It was a yes or no answer. I don't really have a supplementary, but I'll have a go. Just picking up very quickly what we heard in the last exchange, I'm going to request that the airport comes back to ONS for its March meeting. You said we've got to be patient. We've all been extremely patient, and I think it's time for an update at our March ONS. So, your reply.
Hang on a minute, Andrew. This is an irrelevant question. It's not a supplementary to your. So get to your supplementary on question 70, not something totally different. Thank you.
No. So my supplementary on my question about the whistleblower is that the reply is very specific and says, following the Lib Dem administration being formed or something like that. When I read that, that wasn't part of my question. My question wasn't about when it was, when we did get these issues brought to us by the whistleblower. So I understand the reply, which is since you guys have been in office, there haven't been any reports from the whistleblower. So is the implication that there were a few before you took over during the last administration or during the turnover from the old administration to the new one? Is that what the implication of the wording of that reply really is all about?
Well, I'll respond and Declan can respond as well. No, it's not. It's the fact that when I got your question, it made a statement of fact, and I checked with the monitoring officer, had there been any whistleblowing activities that were recorded on our system related to the sale, to the finances, the finance team, anything in that time, from the time we took office, because clearly it was, I don't know what happened beforehand. And that's the information we got. No, there has been no whistleblowing activity whatsoever. That's the fact. If you want to ask the previous administration, I'll have a chat to your group leader, she might know.
But my supplementary was there any before you took office? Well, somebody knows, don't they? Or is that embarrassing for you to answer? Somebody knows, one officer knows, somebody knows in this authority.
We can check, but it'll go on, you know, how far do you want to go back? You know,
Just the last 2 or 3 years in the run out.
we'll go back to 2021, shall we?
No, if you want to be sarcastic, I'm not going to play that game. So my supplementary stands, and you said I'd get an answer. Look forward to it. Thank you so much.
Just before you go, Andrew, this may be of interest. I think it's important to clarify the sequence of events to where we are today. As regards, we discovered that we had problems when we closed down the 23-24 accounts, and that was in July time. And then we looked at the opening balances, and then we looked at the 22-23 accounts, and we discovered there were problems there as well. And that's how it all started. And then it was our new Section 151 officer working with the staff that we started discovering all these things. So it wasn't particularly a whistleblower or anything like that. It was really just the staff working together. And I think it's a credit to them that they've managed to uncover all of this and get us to a better place. So it's nothing more than that, really. But I think people should understand how we got to where we are today. And I think we're making reasonably good progress now.
All that. And at the last council meeting,
Andrew, Andrew, can you? Andrew, we finished question time. Andrew, we have finished question time. We finished, and you've had your supplementary. Can you now go to the public gallery? You know the rules. Can you go to the public gallery? Can you go to the back? Can you go to the back room? Does you finish? I won't call you again. Can you now go to the back? Why can't you behave yourself? You were doing this at council to the mayor as well, and it's not on. Let's go on to item 7, which is the money plan 26-31 and budget proposals 26-27. I think that's you, Declan.
Yeah, okay, thank you, Jeremy. Well, this is the budget and the money plan has already been through overview and scrutiny. It brings forward the council's money plan for 26-27 to 30-31 and the budget proposals for 26-27. And I want to highlight 4 main points for Cabinet tonight, which I think you should focus on. Firstly, as regards the immediate budget position, the Section 151 officer is clear that a legally balanced budget for 26-27 is only achievable if exceptional financial support is approved. Specifically, a capitalisation directive of up to £15.5 million. Without that, the council would not be able to set a balanced budget and would face the risk of a Section 114 notice. With VFS assumed, the budget for 26-27 is considered just about robust, but with very limited headroom and reserves at the lower end of what is acceptable. Second point I think we need to focus on is the medium-term outlook. While the EFS allows the council to stabilise 26-27, The money plan still shows deficits returning from 27-28 onwards. This underlines that the EFS is a temporary reset, not a solution. The plan is explicit that deliveries of the recovery plan, including further savings, income generation and asset disposal, is essential if the council is to move towards a sustainable medium-term position. We need to understand that the drivers and the pressures to what we're proposing tonight. The main pressures remain borrowing costs, the minimum revenue position and the cost of local government reorganisation, alongside ongoing inflationary pressures. These are partly offset by savings such as reduced pension contributions, contract changes and a full review of fees and charges, which together with part of a 1 million savings and income target for 26-27, Cabinet should note that this is not a one-off exercise. Similar levels of savings are assumed in future years. Fourth issue that we also need to focus on is the capital assets and the risk. The capital programme totals around 23 million over 5 years, focused mainly on essential assets and compliance projects, with major regeneration schemes largely complete. The recovery plan relies heavily on asset disposals to reduce borrowing and future revenue costs. This makes delivery risk, market conditions and organisational capacity, particularly in finance and property, critical issues for members to keep under review. In summary, this budget will stabilise the council in the short term, but it is fragile. It depends on EFS approval, disciplined delivery of the recovery plan and further difficult decisions in future years. With that in mind, I would urge Cabinet to support both the budget and the money plan tonight, plus the recovery plan that is embedded within it. So if anybody's got any comments, I would just urge everyone, obviously, to support this.
Are there anybody who wants to say anything on this one? Shall I just say a few words? I think, you know, this is probably going to be hopefully the most accurate set of accounts or projections for this council in probably 6 years. I know I want to thank the Section 151 officer and her team for getting us to this point where we've got a budget. I mean, it's obviously not a budget that we'd be delighted to have, because we've got to make savings and we've got some tough decisions to make. But what we're doing is trying to sort out the finances of this council, and I think we've done a lot of work, and I want to thank Alison and her team and SIPFA that's come in to help, to our auditors, Ernst & Young. I think their help has really been useful. We have put in an EFS application. At one time we were talking about it being £17.5 million. That's now being reduced to £15.5 million, which I think is good. And there is a robust recovery plan. I think that's the important thing to note. And secondly, I think the other issue is that for the public who are concerned that they might be hit by a massive rise in their council tax, it will go to the normal level of just 2.99%. That is less than what the county council is going to raise their council tax by. That's 5%, and it's less than what the police authority is going to do, which is even a higher rate. So of the three authorities that will be taxing the people of Gloucester, I'm not sure about the town council, we will have the lowest rise in council tax. We've managed to come forward with this proposal, and we've done it because of really good solid base accounting and realistic projections, and I say a robust plan. And we've carried out forensic examination already of our accounts going back to 2021. That's why we've had to reset things and get things right, because we've been in there, we've looked at all the financial details and we're sorting it out. And I think that's something that will be really important. And we're just fixing what is a legacy that we received from the former administration. And bear in mind, we had 3 years sets of accounts, statements of accounts, unfinished, unpublished, and that is unprecedented for any local authority to have to take that over. And of course, it all stems from, on top of that, from the cyber incidents. But even so, it's been really difficult to get to this stage. But I do feel that the recovery plan in this budget is sound enough to take forward. And I'm hoping that council, when it gets to discuss it on 26th of February and vote on it, it will get this budget through. I say it's not got any major or any real growth in it. It's just a tight budget to try and cover the costs and to make sure that we make those savings. And of course, on top of that, the government slapped an extra cost of £2 million on local government reorganisation on this authority, which is something that we didn't think we'd have to fund when we took office in May 24. But I hope we can agree to the budget and money power. Sebastian.
Thank you, Leader. Yes, I support this wholeheartedly. And obviously there are a number of fees and charges that we've come out of my portfolio, and it's necessary that we do that. We've looked at neighbouring authorities. We're one of the very few councils that don't charge for many things, or we significantly undercharge for things like allotments and sports pitches, sports pitch hire. So it's important that we take a look at those, and we have done that, and we will continue to keep them under review. There is one slight omission in the charges from my portfolio. If you turn to page 153 of the agenda, or page 23 in the booklet, the fees and charges, it mentions the charges for recycling containers for blocks of flats, and up to 8 flats for 275. Then sets of recycling containers for large blocks more than 8 flats of 499. But there is also an additional charge for sets of blocks of flats where they have more than 20 flats, and we'll need to make that charge £1,000. So that's been omitted from that. So I need to say that so that it's minuted and we include it. Yeah, thank you.
Caroline.
Yeah, I also just want to commend the finance team for the sheer amount of hard work and effort that's gone into bringing the accounts up to this point, to have completed 4 years worth of work really in less than a year, is under the kind of pressure they've been under and the public glare and everything else. It can't have been an easy task and an easy environment to work in. So I am full of praise for the work that they've done here. It's not a budget that we would want to set, but really, given the financial situation, we don't have any choice but to make these cost savings, these cuts, these increases in charges, unpleasant as it is. What is important is that we get on a secure footing. And I think going forward, we need to make sure we're working closely with the finance team and listening to them when they're telling us what they need, what resources they need, what support they need, what time they need, to make sure they do the best job they can of this, because we need to make sure we carefully manage this going forwards to restore confidence in our council and in our finances.
Anyone else? No? All right. Are we agreed? Yeah. Okay. Item 8, that's you, Caroline, Tourism and Destination Marketing Progress Report.
Okay, so this report's come to Cabinet to provide an update on the progress of the Tourism and Destination Marketing Service, which I will call TDM going forwards because it's a bit of a mouthful. It focuses on the work that the team of officers that run the Visit Gloucester promotions has done, rather that we also promote and market our cultural venues, but the progress we make on that is reported in their individual reports, so it doesn't really come under this report. So it does very much focus on Visit Gloucester. The objectives that have been set for TDM were originally set in 2023, and they're very much geared towards increasing the footfall in our city for both residents and visitors, and growing our local economy. And this is where our cultural programme plays a really important role. We've just had in the tourism data from Southwest Research Company for 2024. The reason that seems so long ago is because the annual results always come in yearly in arrears. But the headlines coming out of this report for Gloucester, for the visitor economy, are that we saw £312 million of business turnover supported, and that was up £2 million on the previous year. We saw an estimated around 250 million direct visitor spend, which again was about a £3 million increase on the previous year. Gloucester attracted the second highest volume of day visits in our local visitor economy area. And that accounts for about 20% of all day visits to Gloucestershire. We recorded the second highest day visit spend per head as well. Overall, there's been a slight decrease in the number of day visits. It's gone down by about 5.8%, but that reduction has been seen across the whole region, not just for Gloucester. But having said that, the day visit spend still increased modestly by 0.6%. We had a 3% rise in visitors staying nights. So Gloucester has the third highest volume of domestic staying visits, and we have the joint second highest volume of overseas staying visits. So we're hoping that the new hotel at the Forum will help us to continue to improve our performance in this area, and hopefully that will then grow our visitor economy through increased hotel stays. There's also a section in there on how our Visit Gloucester campaigns have performed, and it covers events such as the Christmas campaign for Gloucester Believes, Bright Nights, Lions at Large, Moomins, Retro. I won't go into too much detail on those because we've just had the Festival and Events report, which covered a lot of that. But some of the headlines coming from this report regarding those events is that we're seeing our organic engagement rate on Visit Gloucester's social media channels over the Christmas period. They're about between 2 and 5% higher than the industry average. So we're seeing some really good growth in that area. And our Christmas related pages saw a 3% year-on-year growth in web visitors as well. Lions at Large raised over 370,000 for the Big Space Cancer appeal. And footfall was up at those attractions where they hosted Lions, which included Museum of Gloucester and the Folk of Gloucester as well. And another really good addition to our comms that year was the new What's On guide that we collaborated with Gloucester Bid on this. And that goes out to cultural venues, shopping centres, supermarkets, the train station and various sort of stands throughout the city centre. We've had good feedback on it so far. People like the format, the content. They've asked for more food and drink content to be included, so we've done that for the next one that's out. It also talks about our mailing lists. So we have one that goes to local businesses where we inform them about business news, resources, funding opportunities, and so on. We've got nearly 200 businesses subscribed, and we're increasing our reach there by promoting our Visit Gloucester presence more on LinkedIn. And then we've got the B2C mailing list, which is where we contact residents who are subscribed to our communications. Over 2 years, we've added an additional 3,000 subscribers. And we found that these subscriber numbers were strengthened by our Bright Nights and our Gloucester Goes Retro content. So that's more good news. On the website front, we made some improvements. We're publishing more blogs because people like to read blogs these days. And we've improved our event submission forms to make it easier for people to submit their information. But the main replatforming work that we had planned, we've had to put that on hold for the time being due to the current financial pressures. So we'll pick that up again at some point, hopefully. And finally, just to mention our association with Cotswold LVEP, which is the Local Visitor Economy Partnership. So our involvement with this will bring benefits to Visit Gloucester. They've had a successful bid of 380,000 from Gloucestershire County Council. That's going to help deliver some improved data collection and analysis that we'll benefit from. It's going to help with a regional growth plan for the whole area. And that will leverage the Cotswold brand for Gloucester and Cheltenham and Forest of Dean as well. And it's going to help us deliver some good governance models. So that's a very brief summary, really, of what was a very long document. And Cabinet's just being asked to note the progress that's been made and endorse the work to continue on these objectives.
Okay, are we happy to endorse it? Yeah. Then the next one is a public arts strategy.
Thank you. Public art strategy. So we commissioned this to be produced following a competitive tendering process, which we funded through community infrastructure levy neighbourhood funds. And it delivers on our action in the corporate plan to reimagine our approach towards the commissioning and delivery of public art. So the consultants that we appointed engaged with over 40 people in a number of meetings, including people from the council, councillors, representatives in the community, from culture, from higher education and local community organisations as well. And the strategy document sets out the outcomes of these consultations. So it delivers the key findings, the conclusions that were drawn, where we think the priorities should be for public art, some thematic suggestions and considerations for the future. So it talks about the objectives of public art to inspire and to instil pride in our residents, to attract visitors and businesses to the city, to express ourselves and to tell our story, sometimes our hidden stories, and to shape our future as well and to shape the look and feel of our city. It talks about the structure that needs to be put in place to enable public art to be implemented. And it sees the council being one of 3 key partners in delivering this, along with the university and Gloucester Culture Trust, and having an externally funded public art director overseeing things. But importantly, it sets out the proposals for funding this endeavour as well, and the partnerships that we'll need. And it emphasises the need for strong engagement with our residents, our local artists and our communities. There's a public art toolkit included in the pack, which gives useful information and contacts for anybody wishing to embark on a public art project. And it also recommends some sites that we should maybe consider as some prime locations for enhancement. And these include the entrance to King's Square from the corner where you come in from the Forum, the Cross, the junction between Barbican Road and the Docks, so acting as, something that draws the 2 parts of the city together. And it also talks about the value in reusing some of our existing public art assets in future projects, such as the BHS reliefs that we're holding in storage that we'd really like to see incorporated into the new Greyfriars development. So, to summarise it, this isn't just an aspirational strategy. It's something that has a real practical and tangible content, and it sets out what steps we need to make our ambitions for public art a reality. So it's not going to sit on a shelf and talk about what we would do if only we had the chance. It gives us some real positive steps we can take. So Cabinet tonight's just being asked to approve that we adopt this new strategy. Start the ball rolling with it.
Thank you. And can I say that I'm really pleased to have made this sort of amount of progress when it comes to public art in Gloucester. It is part of the corporate plan that we adopted of this council. The first big action really is discussions with the University of Gloucestershire, the Gloucester Culture Trust, to develop the action plan, but also to get in place the public art director. That's really, and get that one funded. That's the first job, because there'll be quite a lot of small bits of innovative public art that will happen and then maybe disappear, but there'll also be long-term pieces of public art that we might want on display. And that then that's one of the things which, dealing with the head of place, is to make sure that our major projects as a council have an aspect of public art and % for art, that we look at doing that, and trying to get as many, also with major developers when we're having discussions with them, to see what sort of public art that might be possible in their developments as well. And then you mentioned the Joyce Pallet and Henry Collins reliefs, which were outside British home stores for many years since the 1970s. We've got those in storage. They are included in as a task within the Greyfriars project because they do depict what you can buy in a city centre or you could buy in a city centre years ago. It's about everything that was there on sale. So it would be really good opportunity to get those included. I don't know exactly how it's going to be done yet, but it is one of the key jobs that's been required on the Greyfriars project. So that's an example of the first opportunity we've got to take something that we took down from to create the new Primark shop to actually bring them back to life in the city centre. And these were famous artists that produced these sort of reliefs. They did it on the Sainsbury's store in Northgate Street, but completely right across the world. They created these pieces of art which were put into shopping centres or town centres, and we really need to get them back on display. Certainly by the time this council completes its term, that's my objective, to get them back on display. So if we can't do it at Greyfriars, we're going to have to do it somewhere else, but we need to get them out of storage. It is a pity that we haven't got as much cash available to create some other forms of permanent public art. I think there's quite a lot we need to do about telling the story, the history of Gloucester. And there's time periods in Gloucester's history that aren't really on display in public art in the way they should be. And we've got a really good story to tell. And it's also, we mentioned earlier on about visitor numbers and things like that. One of the things that creates a really good ambience in an area is when you see bits of public art. When you go to a city, you see about famous people or things that city had done on display. It creates an image of the place that you go in to visit. And I think that's one thing. People like to go around and do selfies. And you need to have lots of opportunity for a lot of selfies. That also gets people to walk to places that they might not walk to, and to walk past a retailer and go in and spend money, which they might not do. But if they know they've got these things to go and have a look at, they're more likely to walk that way. So I want to endorse this policy. And I'll then ask Rebecca, because she's got a hand up.
Thank you, Chair. I really welcome this public art strategy, and it just goes without saying that a historical city like Gloucester should absolutely have a public art strategy. I see this as a blueprint for the future generations of this city as well, because I really feel that this is a document that can be taken down now into generations, into any changes that happen through local government reorganisation. People will really see this. And it'll be lovely to see that when we may, as a city, be abolished, come what, 2028, that a unitary or whatever model there is will have that document. So thank you, Caroline, and thank you to all those that worked on it.
Anybody else? No? Shall we? Happy to endorse? Yeah. Item 10 has been withdrawn, and item 11, that's you, Rebecca. Review of face-to-face services.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I'll just be really brief with this, but I just want to thank the officers who have taken this quite seriously. The review of face-to-face services. So the purpose of the report was to provide information on the review of the face-to-face services, including data received from a survey that was sent out with council tax bills. And actually, it was a genius idea to do it because actually we had such good responses. And I think the officers would agree with me that we had a total of 1,287 residents respond to the survey, with 1,008 completing it online and 279 submitting paper copies. The survey captured feedback from all the city wards and a broad range of demographic groups, with equalities information collected to help assess representativeness, which is shown in Appendix 5. So actually it was quite a good response from our residents. It was really interesting actually to see that from the performance data that was captured from the service, from what was captured, it was seen that a preference was for only around 2% of respondents expressed a preference for drop-in face-to-face contact. And this was mainly for council tax, housing and waste inquiries. Comparatively with the approximate population of 132,000 residents in the city, this would indicate that around 2,700 people per year would like to drop into the offices. However, the vast majority did indicate a preference for digital or telephone channels with strong interest in improved online services and web-based chat options. The changes, however, implemented as a result of the survey following the evaluation of the results has meant that there has been a number of improvements made to the operation of the appointment centre, and with the aim of enhancing customer service experience. The emergency duty in-person appointments have become business as usual, ensuring that customers with urgent needs can access rapid face-to-face support. The appointment centre is now compliant with PACE requirements, enabling it to be used for interviews under caution and other statutory functions. Adjustments have been made to improve customer access, including easier entry and navigation within the centre, and the establishment of a dedicated reception desk to manage visitor flow. Generally, there is future work in the pipeline, but we have gone as far as we can at present. And in light of the council's financial situation, any future opportunities to improve face-to-face services will, of course, be financed accordingly. But this does include improving website to improve usability and reduce confusion to address feedback from residents, and expanding space utilisation for staff and visitors. And I think it's really also important to add that the cost of making the changes as a result of the survey, which included installing a professional reception desk, moving signage to improve waymarking, and provision of landlord's visitor book and a drop box, totalled less than £5,000, which I think is incredible for that, actually. So, yeah, thanks again to the officers, and I'm pleased to bring this report to this Cabinet.
Anybody else? Luke?
Yes, I'm really happy with the review of the face-to-face services, in particularly the impact it's had on the housing service, which is a critical area for many vulnerable residents of Gloucester. I found that the previous administration sort of broke apart that element of the housing service, making us practically sort of inaccessible. We were one of the only, we were the only council that had no reception whatsoever. All of the other councils remained open. And of the previous 4 years before we took over, we only saw 27 people in person. The 4 years that, where is it? Sorry. So I'm now pleased that we're rebuilding that. What we're now offering in the housing service is a 5-day-a-week service. We have daily appointments, which are both bookable and also roofless on the day appointments. And we're also looking into delivering more home visits and increasing accessibility through working with family hubs. I do agree with Rebecca, because of the financial restraints we have. I think we have gone as far as we can, but it has also put us in a good, sustainable place. There's a vast improvement from what we came into. I would like to thank the frontline officers because they have embraced this and it has been a change for them. So I would like to say thank you to the officers.
Okay, are we happy to endorse the report?
Yep.
Yep, okay then. That's the end of the meeting.